Alright, so we're on page 18 and I'm speak of Hashem. Rabbeinu Avraham ben Arambam is teaching us perhaps the most crucial lesson he will teach us in the whole entire Maspik of Hashem. I don't say that to undermine what comes later. I say that to emphasize what we're reading now. Rabbeinu Avraham told us that it's impossible for a person to become a chassid, righteous, unless he has first fulfilled the common road. He then goes on to say a following sentence. Ukvar Amar, and it has already been said by Misha Alecha lehitchashev b'ma'amaro, someone whose words you must regard. What does that mean, someone whose words you must regard? What does that mean? Somebody whose words you should take? Seriously. This is a classic style of the Rambam's family. Very often the Rambam was criticized for not having enough sources. Not sourcing his material well enough. The Rambam did that to avoid confusion. If you sometimes write a book with too many footnotes, you never really understand what's going on. It's too distracting. On the other hand, when the Rambam would quote a source, very often he'd be criticized for quoting a source that wasn't acceptable. Oh, how could you quote him? He wasn't Jewish. How could you quote him? He was a heretic. How could you quote him? So there was this balance. The Rambam sometimes says, I'm just not going to quote my sources. Because if I quote my sources, it will do a disservice to the message I'm trying to bring about. Why Rabbeinu Avraham ben Arambam is afraid to reference to Rabbeinu Bachaya ibn Pekudei, who wrote the Chovot Levavot, I don't know. Perhaps I don't know the politics that was around the Chovot Levavot in those days. But this is Chovot Levavot. In the Sephardic world, we say Chovat HaLevavot. Okay, either way is correct. The obligations of the heart, the duties of the heart. Rabbeinu Bachai ibn Pekudei was one of the foremost philosophers of his generation. Harav Peretz told me that his father told him that in Morocco there were sheikhs, Muslim priests who would study Chovot HaLevavot with rabbis. Chavuta.
Yeah, that's known. I think also in Morocco.
Right. So it's an incredible book that was meant to straighten a person's mind properly, how to live a proper life. So what does Rabbeinu Bachai say? Ki hatfilot meratzon. Prayers, and all excited you want to say, Hashem, please help me be successful in this business deal. Those are like a gift, so to speak, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'chayotze behen, and such similar things. K'mohen k'matana, those are all considered gifts. Umilui hachovot kamohu kifiron chov. But performing the mitzvot is not a gift to Hashem. Putting on a talit, wearing tefillin, keeping Shabbat, those are not gifts that you're giving to Hashem. It's like a person who owes someone money and he's fulfilling his debt. He's repaying back his debt. Hashem gave his life and he expects a certain thing back. V'hanoseh lo yovel lekabel matana v'lishmot chovo. And you can't buy your bank a box of chocolates and expect that they're going to ignore how much money you owe them. Right? It's a good mashal, it's a good example. We sometimes come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't do this, and I don't drink that, and I don't eat this. But you're a thief. You haven't fulfilled the basic debt that you owe the bank, and now you're trying to bribe them with a box of chocolates. Rabbeinu Avraham is telling us, the Rabbeinu Bachai says, that a person must be aware that you cannot trick HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to take the straight path, start at the common road. ואני אומר, and I say, says Rabbeinu Avraham, שזה אחד הדברים שיש להבינם במאמר התורה. This is one of the ideas that we can learn from the Torah when it says, בתורה ויתעלה, when it says in דברים, ולא ייקח שוחד, that Hashem will not take a bribe. What does that mean, Hashem will not take a bribe? What kind of silliness is that? Hashem won't take a bribe? Of course Hashem won't take a bribe. How are you going to bribe Hashem in the first place? You're going to go to his right-hand guy and slip a few dollars in the table.
You just buy an expensive aliyah for the Torah.
Oh, very good. Right. Buy an expensive aliyah for the Torah. Hashem doesn't take bribes, meaning you can't come to Hashem and tell him, hey Hashem, I don't do this and I don't do that, but I wear my little Kabbalistic trinket every day and it's going to take care of me. Hey, you can't. It doesn't work that way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't operate this way. ובגנות השיבוש הקשה והמשגה הגדול, Hashem has criticized the absolute confusion and severe ignorance of ההתעסקות בדרך המיוחדת וזניחת הדרך הכללית, he said, by those who neglect the common road of mitzvot, and they choose to hold on to the intimate road only, למען השג פגיעה עם Hashem, in order to reach some kind of a connection or encounter with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You know, praying in a synagogue just doesn't do it for me. I like to climb on top of a mountain and hold my head in the wind and pray. It's great. There's time in the day for that, between Shacharit and Mincha, between Mincha and Arvit, and between Arvit and Shacharit. But the rest of the time, we have an obligation to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu demands from us. You cannot take an intimate road and ignore the common road. You can do the common road, and on top of that, add the intimate road. Amar yitaleh b'lashon nevi'o, as Hashem says in the words of His prophet, and listen to this. Kra b'garon, al tachsoch kashofar harem kolecha. Cry aloud, spare not, raise your voice like the shofar. V'haged la'ami pish'am u'levet Yaakov chatotam. Show my people their transgression, in the house of Yaakov their sins. Ve'oti yom yom idroshun, v'dat dercha yichpatzun. So they seek me daily and desire to know my ways. Kegoy asher tzedaka asa, u'mishpat Elohav lo azav, yishaluni, mishpatei tzedek kirvat Elohim yichpatzun. Like a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the law of their God, they ask me for righteous judgments and desire closeness to God. Let's read the footnote on the bottom. This highlights the absurdity of seeking a close relationship with Hashem while violating His laws. I know. There are many movements in the world today. And even us here. We talk a lot to people about the side of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that loves them. The side of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that cares about them. I'm not for a moment taking away the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is big enough to love even those who despise Him. Even those who anger Him. But this time, there's not an argument about it. You know, we're starting our first book soon in Kabbalah, here in the synagogue, from the Tomer Devora, from Rabbi Kol how Moshe Kol Devora. He says, Hashem is so great that He doesn't hate anyone. He doesn't, even the evil people, He gives them life. Remember we learned this in the Peliyat a few weeks ago? It's contrary to what other people run around and say, oh, you broke Shabbat, this is going to happen to you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is big enough to look the other way when He feels that a person is a good enough person for Him to look the other way. But that does not mean that that person has reached a special relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, despite the fact that they don't care about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah.
The Baal Tanya talks about how the people like that received their nourishment from the Sidra Achar, in a sense, like over Hashem's shoulders, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Here.
And not a direct giving.
Right.
I believe he used the term, the nama, the kisufa, like a bread of embarrassment. It's an embarrassing thing to be nourished that way.
But still it is effective.
What is effective?
With the guy prays to God, I want to give certain people, and it goes and gives, and is successful.
I'm talking here about a person who grabs on, he latches on to the things that they're not so important, or they're intimate, they're extras, but he's not doing what he has to do. When we were sitting in the Beit HaMidrash learning this with our parents, we asked him, what example could he give us? I'm just quoting what he said. He said, it's the man who eats only Chalav Yisrael and cheats on his taxes. That's what he said. He said, stealing, he doesn't mind. But a stringency found in the works of our rabbis that he's very particular about. Now, unfortunately, that's we're picking. I hope the people who do that are not doing the other one. But how could we, in the words of our religiosity, embarrass somebody else, or put down somebody else, or teach our kids that other people are not good enough, or they're not. Those things.
There was a Buddhist teacher called spiritual materialism. It's like a gaiva. I'm doing a higher level of kashrut than other people. It's not because, I feel to get close to Hashem, I need to.
Oh, but that's it. So Rabbi Avam said that's an absurdity. You're violating gava, which is an ego, which is a must. Everyone on the common road has to conquer that. And trying to do an intimate mitzvah, achieve connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you're really violating the whole point. It messes up the whole point. And he says, uvechen, and therefore.
How does he find out he has intimate connection by doing that?
How? Well, they talk about what this bliss that you get, this closeness of relationship.
But it's a mistake, because it's not real. A person is under the illusion they're close to that, but you can't be. It's as absurd as trying to pay the bank back with a box of chocolates. I wish it worked, but it doesn't.
They like the chocolate too.
They'll take the chocolate for sure, but they won't take off from your debt.
I not say magnificent.
He says, "V'chen," and therefore, im noseh ata et nafshecha. If you aspire to ascend lemalat yichidei zgula, to the high level of those who are on the intimate road, ulahalicha b'dachei Hashem miyuchadot, and you want to go on the special journey of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the special path. Dachei chasidei Yisrael u'vnei haneviim, you wish to go on the ways of the chasidim, the righteous ones, and on the path of the students of the prophets. Im shoef hincha linhog b'derech sheteratze lifnei Adonai yitale v'yazrecha lahasig et mataratcha. If you want to go on a way that Kadosh Baruch Hu will be happy with, so that Hashem will be able to make you successful. K'mo she'amu, like a rabbi say, habal etaher mesayin oto, he who comes to purify himself, they help him from above. Where must you begin? Alecha latchid b'derech ha'am hagluya. You must begin with total adherence to the common road. Ulekayma b'shlemut, and to fulfill all of the details there. ולא להפיל דבר מכל מה שאתה חייב בו, and not to neglect even one single requirement that you're obligated in. ורק אחר כך תתחיל בדרך היחיד. And only afterwards are you allowed to begin to ascend the journey of the individual.
But there's no end to doing halachot, and it's also impossible to do all the halachot.
Very good.
And it's, the details take lifetimes to master.
It could be that Rabbeinu Avraham is saying that this road is not meant for everybody. So try the common road. Try to finish the common road. It's almost like telling someone, try to climb the tree. He can't. So then he'll already learn that halfway up the tree, it's already fulfilling enough to have reached this high. I didn't need to make it to the top.
But we do have an informed Judaism in Chassidut and in Sephardic Judaism of a Kabbalah-inspired halachic practice.
That's okay. It's not here differentiating between halakha or Kabbalah. This is differentiating between extras and mandatories. A person wants to take on all kinds of extra stringencies, but he hasn't fulfilled the common road yet.
It's not just about stringency. It's not about mystical depths.
No, it's not. Again, not that there's so much a discussion about quality. There's a lot of room for quality in the common road, to increase quality, to increase connection.
Well, let's say if you compare, for example, the Ben Ish Chai's halacha to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef's, Moran's halacha.
Some would argue that Rabbi Ovadia Yosef and the Ben Ish Chai, the fact that Ben Ish Chai brought it down as halacha, already makes it not Kabbalistic.
Not sure.
He already took it out of the realm of the intimate road into the realm of the common road.
Very interesting.
Ashkenazim have the same opinion regarding the Chavetz Chaim. In the Mishnah Berurah, he brings down many things according to Kabbalah.
That's true.
And until then, in Ashkenaz, they didn't have this thing by the Sephardim that people kept doing Kabbalistic things. They said once he brought it down as halacha in his Mishnah Berurah, it's no longer considered an intimate road. It's considered already part of the common road.
I guess it was more delineated in the Rambam's time.
Yes, it was much more delineated. Less mixing. In general, the Rambam's time was less mixed. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem will continue tomorrow with the rest of these.